Hello friends, I'm Amanda Barr.
And I'm Rebecca Lou Brennan, and welcome to Dance Principles United, the podcast.
Together, we are passionate about helping studio owners with the business of running their studio.
Join us as we talk everything from marketing, systems, studio culture, motherhood, life, and everything in between.
This is the Dance Principles United podcast. Hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Dance Principles United podcast. How are you, lovely Beck?
I am super awesome. Just loving doing podcasts with you. Is always so much fun, Amanda. We do have fun.
We do have fun. We do have fun. I'm still waiting for that glass of champagne, Tom. But it's sitting here in the corner going, I don't think she's joking by now. But no, we're super excited. We're in person. We've been doing a whole block of these. And our last podcast was, we decided to make a bit of a theme. We're going to go with Amanda and Beck Unfiltered, I think is our theme. Unfiltered. And kind of telling some of the stories that have kind of been part of our story. Yes. Right? To grow to the studios that we had, to become the people, because we all have like a story behind it, right?
Yeah, well, we did put in our Dance Principles United tribe group, hey guys, we're going to be recording some podcast episodes. Let us know what you want to know. And to be fair, most of them were like, when did you become friends? What's the biggest thing that happened in your studio? Biggest aha moment? Because I think that's cool that people want to know that stuff. But I do think you learn from other people's mistakes a lot.
Absolutely. So if you didn't check out our last podcast, that was some of the talking about some of the what do we call it? I can't even remember. The big moments in our studio that defined
turning
us.
Points.
And turning points. Yeah, absolutely. That's the word I was looking for. But today we're going to talk about some of like the biggest hurdles and some of the biggest pain points we had in our studio.
Hardest situations, I guess.
Situations that we went through. And obviously we're both kind of like chatting about this, and there's obviously the ones about the students, there's the ones about the teachers, and then there's ones that are about other things as well. So we'll come to that. But let's talk, should we start with the students? Let's talk about the hard student stories. Yes. We've all got so many of them, right? But do you have a story you want to share?
So many.
Yeah.
This was just the first one that came to my head. There's been so many of them, and I know how hard it is for all of you out there when you lose students, especially that you feel attached to. And
it's like this knife to your heart,
It is.
right?
And it's like, I've done so much for them. Yeah. I really had to dig deep and change. But anyway, we'll digress to that later. So this student, I'm pretty sure was with me from age 2 to about 11 or 12. Solo student who I did not charge for solo lessons at the time, Amanda. Surprise, surprise.
I feel like there's a theme, right?
There is always a theme. Was doing extremely well in comp. A few of the kids from her age group did drop off, and not to go to other schools, but just kind of started to give up, I guess. And, she saw the bigger, brighter, got offered the scholarship at the big studio.
I really should have told you my story first because it's very similar.
Mind you, I am a big studio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have to say, obviously, I'm not going to say which studio it is, but at the time, and you'd be surprised to hear this, I'm quite a, person that doesn't mind a bit of confrontation, Amanda. And I actually called that studio owner up and said, stop poaching my kids. But anyway, it happened. So she got given an envelope in a workshop saying, we'd love to offer you a full scholarship. Got the scholarship, left, and it was beyond devastating, as it always was.
Absolutely.
But interesting turn to events. She actually messaged me last year and said, Pause is my home. I really appreciate what you did for me.
Even though she left at 11. 12?
12, I think. Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. I really appreciate what you did for me. Actually, maybe she was 13. Anyway,
okay,
around that age. In my younger years, I would love to come and teach for you. And she came and she's been doing a few solos here and there and stuff. So there you go. That's how much Beck has grown up, because the old Beck would never have let her back in.
You would have been so angry about that situation. Got your angry eyes on. I packed my angry eyes just in case. Do you not love that bit? It's my favourite bit of that movie.
I do. Mr. Potato Head is so good.
So I feel like you've probably grown as someone and like accepted them back in. And like that's a whole nother thing, right? Like letting them go with love. And letting them go graciously. But fuck, those moments are hard, right?
So hard.
Oh my God. Like,
Tell me your story.
Oh
Same?
my God. It's almost the same
Yeah.
story.
I
It's
think
almost
everyone
the
has
same
this
story.
story.
Yeah. And absolutely, like, I'd love to know, like, do you have this story too? And like, how have you overcome it? But I think sometimes it's just nice to know you're not alone. Like,
Yes.
we all have that same story. So mine was a student, and probably it was, I'm trying to think how old she'd be now. It's got to be at least 10 years ago, maybe. And it was the same thing. It was that student that was incredible. She was probably, I don't know, 14 or 15 at the time. No, maybe more like 15. She was the soloist that won everything. She was on scholarship at the studio.
Oh, this
Right.
sounds so familiar.
And there were actually two of these kids almost back to back, and it was the same situation twice. She was on scholarship at the studio. This one hurt because the mum and I actually became quite close and we were quite friendly. I'd never been close to parents before. I'd always been like, no, this is when I started my studio, my mum was very much like, you must be professional at all times. Do not be friendly with any of the parents. And so I wasn't until I had my own kids, and a few of them like really like, especially this one mum, she was the one that was like, oh, please, I want to, she knew where I lived because she'd happened to walk past and, she'd drop around with food. And I was like, oh, this is quite nice actually to have. She was probably a little bit older than me, but not heaps, but, had already had kids. Anyway, whole thing. So we became friends as well. And she was always so supportive of the studio, so the mum that wanted to be there. Always, she told me what she thought. Like, she was quite a strong personality, but was always so lovely about everything and hadn't told me there was an issue. I didn't realise. And just, same thing. Went to the Shiny studio, I believe on a scholarship for a period of time after she'd just finished the scholarship with us. And money wasn't an issue for this family either. It wasn't about the money. No. But I think it was about seeing the recognition or something like that. And the same as what you'd done, I'd done everything for this family, right? I couldn't possibly have bent over more for this family to help them out, to do things. I was driving her to comps. I was dropping her home at night. I was giving her assistant teaching work. There was all of the things. And it was just such a moment where I was like, you know what? Sometimes it's never enough. The grass is greener. There is nothing more I could have done. Sometimes you look back and you're like, I should have done this. I should have done that. We've all had those stories as well. But this was not that. This was I have done everything I can for this child. If the parent isn't happy with what I'm offering, well, there's nothing more I can do.
Correct.
It's hard.
It's hard. I think if you can change that feeling, because I used to be, and this has happened so many times to me, and I know it has to you, so I just want everyone out there to know that, but I used to be a ball on the floor and I would cry and I would overthink every second and I would think, how could I have saved it? And like so much effort into that. And now I think I'm more accepting of it.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that student I talked about, now that I look back on it, that actually was the right choice for her because I'm
still bitter about mine, just as a FYI.
Right. And that's fine. You can be bitter. The reason I think it was the right choice is because kids did drop off from her age group at that time, and she was by far the best. And unlike my seniors now where there's, a good 10 of them that are incredible and they all have each other to compete with, she probably wouldn't have had that.
Yeah.
And I don't think dragging her along with me was the right thing, much as I wanted to at the time. Now that I look back and I'm like, no, that probably was the right choice for you.
Yeah.
And there's been heaps that have left that I know was the absolute wrong choice for them, and they're not even dancing anymore.
That's what this one was,
Right. So I resonate with that as well.
Yeah.
I guess what I've come to learn, and, there's always whispers in my studio of kids who are going to leave.
Absolutely.
Even now.
Yep.
And so what I've learnt to say to my own self is I send them with love and I welcome them back. And yes, it still hurts and it still kills me. But at the same time, I've also hung on to kids, for grim life and gone, no, you must stay. And that was the wrong choice because they end up critiquing every little thing you do and thinking that they're better than,
and then they're doing you a favor,
right? And then they cause issues, and then
they poison others.
Yes, and then it's a whole downward spiral from there anyway. So now when I hear that someone's saying they're going to leave, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they should leave then.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't want to talk them into staying. I do, but at the same time, they have to make the choice that's right for them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I guess I've let go of that a lot.
Absolutely. It's a hard thing, right? Because I
Very.
remember like mourning this student, like, you know, for a good week, 2 weeks, like absolutely couldn't do anything else, like absolutely in mourning. But I remember so vividly sitting at a cafe with my 2 little kids at the time going, you know what, if I'm not enough for her, that's okay. I've got to be okay with that. You know, there's nothing more I can do than what I've done for this person. And like, whatever, I've got to like move on with my life. I can't just keep mourning them and being angry and resentful. I've just got to keep doing it. And I think that comes to not changing things, because I think the old me would have gone, oh, but I'll change this and I'll do that for you and all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, you know what? I'm not going to change those things. I'm going to do the studio that makes me happy and go from there.
And like, how many times have you changed those things and they leave anyway?
Absolutely. Isn't that just always the way, right?
Yes, and I still haven't learned that lesson.
Yeah, and you change things because you think, and I had for that mum, probably, you know, in a subtle way, because we were friendly. She'd make suggestions and I would be like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And we'd do things and all of that. And it doesn't work anyway. So there's no point. You might as well just run the studio you want to run, because they're going to leave. If they're going to leave, they're going to leave.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, so that's number 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's talk about a teacher hard situation, because we've all had staff hard situations.
And like when you have to fire them and it's so hard.
Oh, it's the worst.
But I don't even know if I've told you this story.
Okay, let's hear.
I feel like you've heard a lot of my stories. So my original mentor for ballet, and I'm talking like before I even had my studio, this teacher was incredible and really, I truly believe, made me the ballet teacher I am today. And she was quite tough on me. And I was doing my RAD certificate but teaching in the same studio as her. So we had this journey together.
Yep.
And then she started teaching at my studio, and for years, like I'm talking on and off for probably 15 years, Amanda, right? So this is a long time.
Relationship. Yep.
She would buy my children presents. I would go to her house for coffee. Like, she was a genuine mentor.
Yeah.
Anyway, it got to a point where it was just, I was doing so much for her. That's the first thing I was doing wrong. And she was very expensive. And just trying to please her all the time. She was getting quite cranky with things, no matter what it was. I just couldn't please her enough.
Okay, so that's kind of like what we were talking about with the students too, right? Like changing what you want to do to please somebody else. Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it came to this one lesson, and I will never forget it. And there had been a lot of build up to this, please understand that, where I was teaching a student and she came in and she said in front of the private lessons student, as if you'd correct like that. I wouldn't correct like that, and like really pulled me down in front of the student. And then there was this whole other situation that was happening where she had to go away and examine. She was an examiner.
Yep.
And then last minute that got cancelled because it was around that COVID, you know, all that stuff happening. But then I'd already covered all of her classes, but she wanted to come in and have them back. And I said no to that. And she was really, really aggressively angry with me about that.
Yeah.
And so I let her go. And that was the hardest firing I've ever had to do.
Yeah.
Like, it was
someone that you'd looked up to in the past, had been such a big part of your life. Like, that's such a hard moment.
And I knew it was going to be over and out as well. I knew that she would never forgive me.
Yeah.
I knew
you
that
couldn't keep the relationship going.
No.
Yeah. That's so hard.
So hard. But
is there a lesson in that?
It was the best thing for my business. And I think
you got to make the hard call sometimes.
Sometimes you have to make the hard call. And like, it still saddens me. Like, I still miss her as a friend and mentor and all of the things, but she was just not right for the business at the time. And I don't know if she looks back on that and can see that now, maybe not. But it just was getting so toxic in there. But sometimes we do, and we were talking about this today on Tribe, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we do keep those toxic teachers in for so long for reasons like that. You know, you've got a past with them. You're scared to have the confrontation. You've had a past with them. You know, you've seen the great in them and now they're not so great. There's so many reasons we keep them on. But I think the lesson in that is you do have to say goodbye sometimes, even when it's not right for you, but it is right for your business.
Oh, yeah. So maybe if you're listening to this and you're procrastinating or making a hard decision, maybe this is something you need to kind of have a look at and go, you know what, sometimes it is just best for my business.
100%.
And it's scary and horrible and it hurts and it's weird and it's uncomfortable and all of those things, but sometimes that's what makes true leaders, because, you know, out of hardship comes all this great success, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you've had a situation like this, Amanda, but I know one of our SGC members had one of her very, very best friends teaching and same thing. And I was on calls with her for probably a good 6 to 9 months saying she knew what had to happen, but just saying to her, you're going to have to let her go. You're going to have to let her go. You're going to have to let her go. So hard.
So hard. And I know sometimes, you know, I've had other people that it's been their sister or something like that. And
yes,
like, oh my
it's
God.
So hard. But it is, you know in yourself, if you're listening, you know in yourself that it's the right decision and you just have to move forward with it and do it.
Oh, those icky moments. It's hard. It's so super hard.
I know.
Oh, do you want to hear my staff story?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay. Look, a little bit different. I've obviously fired staff as well, which has been horrible and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think anything as – it's horrible, but I wouldn't say as emotional as that. But my hard staff story was around – I had 2 incredible staff that were working for me. They'd been students at my studio. They came up through the ranks. They were best friends, and they were the absolute like soul of my studio. Like they were the best teachers. I could not rave more about them.
Yep.
Such good staff. We had great relationships. We had great friendships as well. I was probably too close to them as a friend. Like there was that going on as well. Like we would hang out all the time together.
Yep.
But like absolutely like, you know, such a great relationship. And they were doing incredible stuff for my studio. I think maybe they got a little bit too big for their boots is all I can kind of think. And I don't really know what happened, to be honest. And I still don't. And they came to me and told me that they were both going to the UK, right, to travel and stuff, which obviously fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like when you're 2 main teachers, they were teaching and, you know, like studio managing and like all of this kind of stuff. And, you know, that sucks. Oh, I also want to tell you I put both of them through full-time. I paid for their full-time courses, both of them. Yeah.
Oh, God, of course you did. Of course you did.
At separate years, we had the condition that they worked for me for a couple of years. They went and did full-time. Then they came back and worked for me as well. You know, it was so supportive across that just because they wanted to do it as an experience, not to become a dancer. But then they just both decided together they were going to move to UK, which is fine. And I was like, cool, look, that's fine. But like, here's how I want to handle it with the parents. I don't want you to tell anyone until I have new troop teachers ready. This is what I want to do.
100%. I think you always have to go with your clients with a solution, not a problem.
Absolutely. And that was my thing with them. And I explained that to them. They're like, yeah, we totally understand, because it was my 2 comp teachers. We were winning everything at the time. And I was like, fuck, this is going to be a problem. I need a solution first. They started whispering to parents, and I got wind of that they were telling lots of parents that they were leaving. God. And not just 1 or 2, they were telling every parent in the background that they were leaving.
Guys, my eyes are rolling in case you can't see that, but just see my eyes.
And this was
right
like
now.
July, August, and they were leaving at the end of the year. So it's like that, like, why are we doing it this early? I couldn't even employ a new teacher yet because it was so far away because, you know, it doesn't start until February. It was almost like 7 or 8 months away, but starting to plant these seeds of doubt with all of the parents. But it all started getting a little bit weird as well. They were all of a sudden like hanging out and going to, like, they were only like 22 or 23. Like, they were young, maybe a little bit older than that. But they were going to like dinners with parents and hanging out at their house. And there was all of this all of a sudden happening, because I think they basically went, fuck Amanda's rules. We're leaving anyway. Like, let's cause all of this on the way out.
Or were they going to start their own studio? That's what I would have been scared of.
Well, I think I would have been, but like, I knew that they were going to the UK because they were all about it. Like, and they were like London life and stuff and like all of this. But it was, I don't know why they decided to do this. I feel like maybe, you know, they loved the accolades. Oh, you can't leave. We'll miss you so much. Like that love and stuff from the parent. I don't know. Who knows what the fuck happened? But that was such a hard time for me. And so it was like 4 months and it was this like, do I get rid of them now? Because they're doing specific, but they were still doing great stuff and I still didn't have a solution. Then they were, you know, they started doing, like, they organised their own going away party with all the kids, invited all the kids and didn't invite me.
There.
Fuck me. I know. I think we've had this conversation as well. Did all these things. Anyway, such a hard thing. And just that ickiness when I knew that there was, but then they were nice as pie to my face.
And you would have felt uncomfortable in your own studio.
I felt so uncomfortable. Yep. I knew that there was whispers. I knew that the parents were talking about it but didn't want to tell me that they knew, because they were like, oh, we've been told we're not allowed to tell them it. Like there was all of this kind of shit going on. And it was just this really icky period. You want to know what I did?
I'd love to know what you did.
I was like, fuck this. I'm going to make this the most, turn this around and make this incredible. So that's when I advertised for an American teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you know what? What's going to be better than just finding a new comp teacher? Making it so exciting by bringing someone out from the States that's so different to anyone that they've ever had. Because I was like, you know what? I could find another comp teacher, but like, comp teachers are like, obviously some are better than others and stuff, but they're always going to be compared. But I'm like, if I bring out an American who is so different and so full of energy, that's going to just feel really different. It's going to change the vibe. They're not going to come with preconceived notions of what the Australian dance industry is like. So that was when I advertised in America and did a huge hunt across America so I could announce it to all my parents that I'd been, you know, doing this through America, I was paying for someone to come out from the States. I made it like this whole big thing and almost did, like this was a long time ago, probably before that was kind of happening a lot, but almost did like a behind the scenes, like a bit of a reality show of me finding this perfect American teacher to come out. Which was Ali, and she was perfect. And she's the one who's ended up buying my studio and stayed for 10 years now. Like, she was only meant to be here for 6 months. It was going to be a 6 months to sort of see how it went, because I also wasn't, you know, at the time I was like, I reckon these teachers will be back in 6 months, which they were, and came back and asked for their jobs back in 6 months' time. But Ali was so incredible. And I got lucky, obviously, with that. Well, I searched fucking hard.
I disagree
America.
with that. And this is what I love about you is like, you're going to, something gets thrown at you and instead of going, oh, I'm poor me, you know, this is so hard that this is happening to me. You're like, fuck all of you. I'm going to now prove you all wrong. It's exactly what you were saying before, Amanda, but it's all of us have these pathways in business where we can, hard shit happens to everyone, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All of you are listening to this resonating with all of our stories, but the thing is you can either choose the victim, which I've done multiple times.
Absolutely.
I'm not judging anyone out there that does that. I'm a victim, you know, this is so sad, poor me. Or you can go, stuff this, I'm going to make this work. And I feel like, yeah, probably the last 15 years I've been a stuff this, I'm going to make this work person. And I still am. And I think that's the key, right? Like you can cry on your pillow once and then get over that and move. That's so cool. That's such a cool story.
I think it's also about like thinking outside the box. Like at the time that was very outside the box. You know, I was calling all the colleges to find like their dance, to find who ran the dance team, to then ask them if anyone was graduating would come. I was like messaging, like I was doing all the things to try and find people. I created a website and a vlog about my life and all this kind of stuff. And look, that might not be the right thing, but I was like, I'm going to do it different. Rather than do same and replace a comp teacher with a comp teacher that's a local comp teacher that's the same, I'm like, I'm going to do it completely different. And I think that can be exciting because it builds so much excitement.
That's such a cool story. I love it.
That's my story of the day. So good. So I guess, how are you thinking outside the box is our big question. Let's hear your other horrible story, your hard story, one of those moments in business where you're like, fuck, this is hard.
Last one.
Okay, let's
Last
go.
one. So I wanted to tell this because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know about this still in our industry.
And it's a cautionary tale, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it's cautious. It's telling what happened to you so that they can be cautious and not make the mistake themselves.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's not where I thought you were going.
No.
So back in the day when I didn't know anything about business but was creating these beautiful dancing children but, didn't really know anything about business, I used to have contractors at my studio.
Yeah, subcontractors.
Subcontractors. And every teacher that came in was a subcontractor. Now, I know that this still exists out there.
Yes.
And these subcontractors who ended up suing me, and I'll tell you that story in a second. I just want to tell you the story of them.
Yep.
They came to my studio probably when they were about 14, 15.
Sisters, right?
Sisters. They then grew up at the studio, became assistant teachers. I then put them through uni by them teaching. One of them who, to be fair, was not really the biggest rock star teacher you've ever met, but I loved her and supported her.
Yep.
She became head of preschool.
Yep.
The other one was teaching acro. They were getting paid way above the award wage as subcontractors.
Yep. And so what, they worked for you for what, like 6, 7, 8 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw them both through uni.
Yep.
And then they got, degrees and started teaching or doing whatever else they did.
Awesome.
And they ended up leaving, not because of anything bad happening, just because
they got full-time jobs with their degrees. They left on good terms. Yep.
It was too hard.
Yep.
So then 3 years later, I get this letter. Have
you seen them in this 3 years period?
Oh, yep. They drop in all the time.
Come and see the kids. Like really lovely relationship. Yep. Awesome.
Yep. No bad terms whatsoever.
Yep.
So then I get this letter saying that I owe each of them $20,000 in superannuation.
Fuck.
Yep. Crazy.
And for our listeners, they'd worked out on back pay because you hadn't been paying them super.
Correct.
As a subcontractor for their.
Well, they should never have been subcontractors.
Yes.
And that's the thing I learnt through this. So I, of course, went to lawyers, actually had a meeting with a barrister, and his wife was a dance studio owner, believe it or not. And he said to me, I totally get this in the industry, Beck, and I get that everyone is still subcontractors.
Absolutely.
And I understand where you're coming from. He was so lovely, actually.
Yeah.
But he said, do they have the same class every week at the same time? Yes. Then they have to be employees.
Yep.
That's the end of it. And I said, but what about the person that works for F45 down the road from me and they're subcontracting and they only do an hour but it's still the same hour? And he's like, then they shouldn't be subcontracting. They must be employees.
Yep.
There's no black or white.
There's absolutely not. And there's a great tool on the Australian Taxation Office that it gives you a little quiz and it's so clear.
So if you bring Marco Panzik out for a workshop, he can be a subcontractor.
Absolutely, because it's a once off and he also doesn't have to wear your uniform. You don't tell him what time to show up. It's all of that.
Doesn't adhere to your rules.
Yep.
The biggest one is if they have the same class every week at the same time, which all of our teachers do.
Yep. And it can change week to week, but generally, because that's the same as like a casual employee, right?
Yep.
You can go, but it's not this hour and the holidays and all of that kind of stuff, but still it's generally the same time.
Yep.
And so you got sued for $20,000 each. There, which was
roundabout.
Back pay. You went to the barrister. You went, what can I do? I'm going to put money in it. Can I fight this? And they said,
Nope.
Suck
it up. You can't do anything.
Yep.
I think we did go back and forth with a few negotiations and I got it down
because from memory,
a little bit.
there was also that they wanted to be paid for performances that they'd come to that you had that you
Correct.
Yeah, is that right?
Correct.
You'd paid them for some performances, but some they just showed up to and
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fine. And we
got out of that
We
bit.
did bring it down a bit, but still, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And look, lesson learned, and I'm so passionate about educating people on this.
Yeah.
like I said, there's no grey area.
There's
here,
absolutely
guys.
no grey area. And just because someone else does it doesn't make it
Yes,
right.
and just because they do it at other studios doesn't make it right. And just because they, the big studio down the road does it as well.
also doesn't make it right. So, and I guess that's a big thing, right? You leave yourself susceptible. And look, obviously for some people it has been fine in the past. And like, great, lucky you. But it also sometimes is not fine. And then they can come after you, it doesn't matter how long afterwards, and ask for all this back pay. So you had to pay them back for all this super that you should have paid them originally.
And let me tell you, the second that I found out that what I was doing was wrong, I completely changed everything straight away.
Yep.
Every single person became an employee. I didn't keep going down that road anymore.
Hey, can I ask a question? You've got a couple of high-end teachers at the moment that are well-known people in the industry.
Yes.
I imagine that they subcontract at other studios that
absolutely
they go to. How did they take it when you employed them and said, no, I'm not subcontracting?
I tell them that story.
Yep.
I just tell them that story. And I just tell them that that's
it. If you want to work for me, this is it.
And I say, no offense, but you shouldn't be subcontracting anyway.
Yeah.
It's not legal.
That's also not my problem. This is my problem.
Yeah, but I just tell them that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they know that from the get-go, and they get set up properly, and all of the things happen, and that's the end of it. There's no choice.
And I love benefit driving it for them as well. Be like, hey, if you want to get a loan for a house, like you need to be an employee. Like otherwise they won't take it. Like, all of those things. Like, do you want super? Do you understand what super is and why you want it? Like, all of those things. Like, I think that's such a powerful story, but God, a shit lesson to learn.
But a great lesson to learn.
Fucking expensive one though.
It was expensive at the time, but it could have been a lot more expensive if I'd kept going with what I was doing.
If you'd had it now since then and everybody. Because that's the other thing, like, sometimes like if one person does it, then other people get wind of it.
I just want to finish with this because BB has been, going to different workshops and different schools and things like that and just exploring, all the things. And she went and had a lesson with Kat Santos, Kat.
Yeah.
And Kat took the kids down to the beach. She was staying with Keisha, who's doing Dance Force full time, and talked to them for an hour. And one of the things she said is pause on a positive. And BB has taken this so literally in her life that any time that I'm speaking negatively about a situation or something with her, she'll go, wait, Mum, pause on a positive. In other words, what is the positive that's going to come out of this negative situation? Such a wise little thing, our
She's
baby,
a wise
isn't she?
little 15-year-old.
But I love it. And it just made me think of that then, like, yes, that's a shit situation. Yes, it sucked. It was awful. What's the positive that's come out of it? Well, I'm running my business properly now.
Yes,
and I'm
that's not
proud
gonna
of
happen
that.
again.
And also I can now, in the position I'm in, being a coach and doing this podcast with you, I can also warn other people about it. So like, that's how I'm going to leave this podcast today is when negative stuff happens to you and you're feeling all woe and woe is me and all the horrible things, pause on a positive. What have you learnt from it? What's the positive you can take out of it? And how can you move forward positively to change that?
That's a great one to end on.
Thanks,
That's very
BB.
wise. Thanks, Beck. Thanks, BB. Thanks, Kat Santos. We love that. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Dance Principles United podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, friends. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dance Principles United podcast. If you'd love to learn more from us, we have a special offer just for our podcast listeners. Go to the link in the show notes right now to get 2 weeks free in Dance Principles United Tribe. We would love to see you there.